How well are you managing your fear of abandonment? Because you see, if you grew up in a dysfunctional family, you were left alone a lot. And there are two ways how you can be left alone. Physically, obviously. So if you grew up in a family, like let's say you had an addict in your family, one of your parents were an alcoholic or workaholic or shopaholic or whatever, and then they prioritized that addiction instead of you, you were left physically alone. And you might even have siblings or maybe other family members that took care of you, but I read a lot about fear of abandonment can be a huge trauma even for the baby that's left alone for 5 minutes. There's one part that also can really leave you traumatized when your abandonment is actually emotional. So you could be in the house full of people. You maybe come from a huge family. You have like 10 siblings, and your aunt's living with you, and you constantly dealing with your neighbors and the people. But if they really don't understand you and you do not feel like they listening to you, you may feel alone. Actually, today is a pandemic of loneliness. We are living in a million people cities, and there's so much of loneliness that people just suicide because they cannot take it anymore. All of this addiction right now trying to suppress your pain is coming from not being heard. And that comes really from an environment when you were growing up where you try to explain yourself to someone and you try to show your preferences, but you've been told that whatever you're thinking is wrong, or whatever you felt was wrong. Maybe you've been told, like, no, you're not hungry, no, you're not cold, or stop thinking that, or whatever you're thinking is wrong. Or you're being gaslighted by your family members, and gaslighting is when they're telling you something that didn't happen, or whatever you feel like it's not true, or they never said that, and you're just imagining things. So when it starts happening to you when you are a young child, you learn not to even trust yourself. So then you abandoning yourself as well. That's like another level of abandonment. So now when you're an adult, you may see relationships and relating with other people's to be quite complicated. And if you are noticing that, let's say you start a relationship, maybe you meet a new friend, or you go to a new workplace and you start building those relationships with your coworkers, or finding some romantic partner, and you suddenly feel like, whoa, 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 this is way too much for me, and you feel unsafe. So then you start sabotaging yourself. You're like, no, I don't think they like me. I think they're wrong for me. Then you start making all kinds of accusations. Then you make traps. You put all kinds of tests, and then you do everything, which actually just sabotages it. You are doing this because out of preservation. You know that you're not good at relationships. You know that as soon as somebody's gonna get closer to you, they're gonna hurt you. They're going to leave you. They may leave you physically, they're just gone, or they may leave you emotionally when they will just stop liking you, stop paying attention to you. Well, because that happened to you when you were a child. So you obviously learn those relationship patterns from when you were a baby. And you can continuously this in adult life. Also, fear of abandonment can be so acute that you are afraid those people leaving you, because obviously when you are a baby you feel like it belongs, your survival depends on it, right? Like if the mommy and daddy not gonna feed you, you're gonna die. Like we all know that, right? We belong to a group of people. We need to belong to a group because, well, we will just be isolated and just die. So then we become very clingy. We're like, no, we need to know where they're going, what they're doing, when they're gonna become back, what happened, why they're not messaging me back. And I've been suffering for that for a very long time, realizing that I just become super clingy or I just sabotage the relationships altogether because I just didn't know how to handle my fear of abandonment. And that is just a survival. That is just pure survival. It's not like we decide, I'm just gonna be super clingy. No, we're not. But the sad part about this is if we go one way or the other, or we become super clingy, or we just totally go to other direction and we're like, we're not gonna even have any people around us. We just hate this. We think we're doing good for us, but actually we're not, because we push other people away from us, and or we push ourselves away from the relationship, or we become so clingy and so controlling that they leave us because they cannot breathe anymore. So at the end, they leave, and we say, you see, I knew it, because that's exactly what happened to me in the previous relationship, or in the previous friendship, or whatever that was. And then you say, I don't know what's wrong with people, or I don't know what's wrong with me, and I just don't know even what to do with that. So there is a way. Number one, you need to, start paying attention how you behave around people, and what do you think, and what emotions it brings it to you. And then you need to feel your body, because a lot of times the pain, emotional pain, it comes in your body as well. So then you're like, okay, what do I feel? And then you have to learn how to soothe yourself. Also play with your game, with your brain, a game, and say, okay, well, make a note for yourself, make a list, and say, okay, well, I was had this fear of abandonment when I was thinking that somebody's not gonna come back home, like an hour into the night, and did not hear what happened. Maybe they did. Maybe they left me. Maybe all that kind of, those crazy thoughts that comes to your mind. Start writing it down when you were thinking they will never come back, but they actually did. Or you thought they will never call me back, but they actually did. And then create this list. So then the next time when you come to this psychosis of, oh my gosh, I'm left, I'm gonna die now, just read that list and tell your brain, like, no, this is probably one of those times that everything is gonna be okay. So you soothe yourself. Also, there are other, stress management techniques that you can do, like mindfulness, grounding yourself, meditating, and soothing yourself. And you need to remember that part of you that is afraid of people leaving you is actually that inner child is not being parented. So choose to be your own parent and talk to that inner child. And you have to do this with yourself, and understand that other people will not do this for you. You have to stop abandoning yourself. That's the fear of abandonment that I was telling you at the beginning about. Is the worst thing when you're abandoning yourself as well. So help yourself by honoring your feelings. Please do not tell yourself like, oh, I'm doing this again. Do not punish yourself. You just need to stop and love yourself dearly and say, it's okay, I know what's happening, but now I have a grip of that. So I'm going to soothe myself. I'm going to read my list. And then more and more, especially when you start building this habit of where you see that there is no reason for you to be afraid anymore, it can take few months to a few years until you finally calm down and you have the grip of the things that's actually happening. And again, those things can trigger all the time, but how you respond to them, it's very important. And you don't have to jeopardize your relationships. Have a friend who does not have those kind of issues and ask their opinion how those things look like, because probably things are much better than you think. So I can talk about it for hours, and if you don't have my book, it's called Stress Management for Adult Children of Alcoholics. And again, it's not only for alcoholic, dysfunctional families. It's really any child that grew up in a dysfunctional family of not having enough support and appreciation and emotional support, especially. This book is about that, and I talk about the different flaws, what people say, oh, this is such a bad thing, and I don't think so. Like fear of abandonment, that's one thing that's mentioned in my book, and I give plenty of exercises how you can deal with that. So go to Amazon. I will leave a link below and get my book. And also you're welcome to come to my Facebook group called Stress Management for Adult Children of Addicts, which I'm pretty much talking about the same thing. And you're welcome to ask questions. And I hope I'll see you there.